All right, welcome to Dr. Paul. I'm with Master Tony Hawkins, man. And we have an opportunity to just talk about um, really about many things about being men. And I think the hardest problem with that is we don't know, especially specifically black men, don't even know who they are and where they come from and what they need to do. And it always seems I have found out every time if we're talking about specifically if black men are talking about being black, it seems like we get jumped on being hostile, like hostile blacks, and that's not the case.
I'm still here.
So yeah, that's not the case. So what have you come across about teaching or even talking about being a black man in the United States and how it's not supposed to come across hostile? You know what I mean?
Well, a couple of things. First, I don't put all of us in the same box.
Right.
Because there are some black men, there's quite a few of us out there who are doing quite well in life, making a difference in the community, really putting back in the community and putting back into our youth. The perception for which we see on television is not necessarily the whole perception of what happens in the black community. So therefore, yeah, we will get these a lot more negativity in regards to what's on TV, in regards to actually what's happening. And I would say that in regards to my own circle of friends that I'm around with, predominantly African American male, who I know are doing well in life, who I know are successful, raising their family and doing right by them. I'm not saying they're perfect by far, but what we find is that this is not the perception that people see. So when we say that an individual or black male don't know who he is, that is not always the case. I would say that in most times we know who we are. It's just a perception that is what's shown to America.
Now, how can this? The other thing about like being an educated black man or being anything positive, it always seems to get looked at like we're angry, like we come across angry.
Well, a lot of I would say in our culture, not all the way around, but we have to wear two faces. We do. You pick up this telephone. Hi, my name is Tony. How can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
Then when I put it, hey, what's going on? What's going on? So it just depends on where we at and what's happening with us. I mean, that's just the nature of the culture for which we are a part of. And so yeah, sometimes it may come off being a little loud, maybe a little rude. I mean, but that's just who we are. I can talk loud to some of my brothers, and everybody looking around like, are they about to fight? No, it's just us.
So is it how do you I was going over this lecture I was about ready to get ready to do for the NFL men down in Orlando for Pro Bowl week and the Hall of Fame Pro Bowl week. And when I know a lot of men down there who are mostly African Americans who play this sport, they're looking to better themselves even after football, and yet they only get looked at like they're in a box. And we need to stop being looked at like we're in a box all the time. And we need to come across where it's like, I also can do this. I don't have to be so boxed in by what you think I should be.
Well, that's like I said, it goes back to the presumption, or it goes back to what is being portrayed on television. Television programming, TV, that's what it does. It programs you, it gives you a perception of how people are or what they're supposed to be in the eyes of those who don't really mix. So if I'm not really around white people or Asians or anybody else, my perception would be that from which I get and see on television. It's just like most perception of what people see about Africa is that it's jungle, people are hungry, people are desolate. But that's not all of Africa. That's just like here in the United States. You may see California as being the Hollywood lights, camera, action. But when you actually go to Hollywood, you shake your head, you're like, God damn, is this really Hollywood?
Right, it's fucked up there.
It is. But see, that's not what you're going to see it on television. When they show the Oscars, baby, it is like, wow, I love to go see that. And then when you go to where they hold it at, you be like, wait a minute, that's not what I see on this television program. Until we understand what we're dealing with, this is what we're going to get.
So, again, I am struggling, even doesn't matter how many things I can do or have done, I constantly struggle with trying to get young black men, older black men to not be angry and to just be successful.
When you say not be angry, angry at who?
Yeah, that's a good one. A lot of times they're angry at their circumstances.
Absolutely. So the idea is you change the circumstances, you change the whole situation. I mean, if you had jobs for people, or if people went out and created their own jobs and they became successful, do you think we would be that angry?
And so when they talk about unemployment rate is going down, who are they really measuring?
Well, they're not measuring us because we have to realize we're in a system that has been operating for over 2 system was not developed for us. This system was developed for a whole other group of people, and we have to realize being in that system, we have to come out of that system and do what we have to do for ourselves. Everybody's beginning to kind of wake up a little bit. You know as well as I know, well, I'm going to speak for myself. In those days of 60s, the 50s, early 70s, during that time, we really had everything we wanted. We had everything we wanted and needed. But because we wanted to be amongst people who did not like us, we gave it all away. We gave away our economic wealth to be amongst those who didn't give nothing about us. So, in saying that, we had it all. We had our own taxi cab company.
Yep.
We had our own hospitals. We had our own banks. We had our own movie theaters. We was even operating in Hollywood separate from everybody else. But because we wanted to eat at your table.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to stay at your restaurant, our restaurant died. Because we wanted to be at your bank, our banks failed. We wanted to go to your hospital, our hospital failed. We had the best doctors. Come on now. We had the best mechanics. We had the best of everything, but we wanted to be so accepted by society.
Yeah, it killed it.
Didn't like us, and we find ourselves in this situation. We wanted somebody to give us a job.
Yeah, it killed us. You know, it's like so much history. Like to me, like you know, I love reading and all that stuff. Like Benjamin Banneker, who I'm always a scientist in my own heart, and Benjamin Banneker is the one who actually broke down the body according to everything that's even made, because everything that is made off of the black male melanin, right? Because our melanin is the one absorbs everything that we got in our lives, right? You know, they made Teflon, the Teflon that doesn't stick off of the melanin that we have in our skin. You know, the blacks were the most studied, not so much of what we couldn't do, but what we had in us. You know, and so that's why we were so poked and prodded and tested with everything. I mean, so it's a lot of the stuff that was being absolutely absorbed and taken away from us because a lot of the other cultures didn't have a lot what we had in us. So they were trying to take it from us so they can get it into their bodies. That's just scientific proof. That's just scientific proof about all the stuff the reason why they were testing us is so they can get it inside their bodies.
Oh, of course. Now, I don't know if you know this or not. You may or may not know it. The pill that they have now that you can take this pill and it makes you this color. It gives you that melon. It's only for a day or so, but think about it. They have a pill that you can take now and it makes you look like you're black. You know, I mean, when you think about the technology they have, they want to look like you, but they don't want to be you. They always have the opportunity to go back into their, I would say, their clustered society and do whatever they're enjoy sitting in the sun and trying to get that copper tone. There's nothing like it, my skin. There's nothing like it on the planet. What is happening and what has happened is that it has been demonized. The color of my skin has been demonized.
It has been demonized. Yep.
A 6'3", 215-pound black man. I'm skinny. Coming your way, you're gonna say, well, he look 6'6", 290. You know, because I'm demonized. My skin color is demonized, but you love it because of what it has in it. And we have to start loving ourselves for what it is. Because if we don't, we will.
You know, one of the things, you know, as we keep reading, and I think if whoever watches this, and I hope they do your own research, right? Don't take don't take what I thought, I said, or heard, or whatever. But like even the word that we get as far as human race, right? No one's ever thought about it. That's why they didn't want to talk about the human race. They keep changing it to mankind because human race is really the study of color and the race of being. I mean, most people don't even think of it that way. They're like, oh, it's human race. No, hue meaning color. You know what I mean? So even
the process would be is for those who are coming behind me. Like I'm in my 50s now. I'm in what you call the sun is at its meridian height in my life right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now for those who are coming behind me, their sun is like it's like 9 o'clock, 10, they're still in the morning hours.
Yeah.
So what I have to do as a black man is go back and teach and educate and help along the way. Everybody don't want to be saved. So I'm not trying to save everybody. But for those who I can reach, those who I can help educate, those who want to be accessible to me, those are the ones going to forward. I will take my own son, for instance. I will start with him, and then he will start with his friends. My thing was, as a father, I wanted to be so into my son's head to when he think he would hear my voice. I want him to hear my voice. Every decision that he makes, he needs to hear my voice. Son, that's not how I taught you. Son, you can do better. Son, I love you. Son, you're great. Son, you're precious.
Yeah.
Son, come on now, you need to get up. Those are the things he needs to hear. It needs to be my voice. It doesn't need to be the voice of the streets.
Right.
No, it needs to be the parent voice. And what we have is a quiet. We don't have voices of the parents. We have voices of the streets telling the kids, hey, you know what? You need to, this is the swag. You got to do this. And you got to talk this way. No, that's not how it's going to go down. And that's what we need. That's what has been lost. We need to bring that back. It's not like it's lost forever. We just got to go do it.
You know, and I think, you know, one of these programs or the programs that I want to do here more on these Friday night talks with friends and family and like what you call real table talk. That's really what I want to do and that's why I wanted you on for my first inaugural table talk because I think we're coastal. You're on the one coast, I'm on the other coast. And I think if we could start with the coastal and start sandwiching these brothers together and opening their hearts and minds, because there's some good brothers out there. There's some good men out there. There's some good people out there. They're just sleepy.
Yeah, and it reminds me of the story in the Bible about those dry bones. You know, how can I breathe the life on those dry bones? First of all, I must be the example. I'm not saying the perfect example, but an example of how to carry yourself, how to live your life out. You know, we often wonder how did older people survive? How did they do what they did, and how did they stay married for so long?
Mm-hmm.
How did the grandparents? It wasn't rocket science. They realized that there was individual. Okay, can you deal with this individual? And if you're able to deal with him, him or her, you know, because there's going to be some give and take. Oh, trust that. The process is what are you willing to give, and what are you willing to take? It's not rocket science. And once we begin to instill that into those who are coming behind us, or even some of those that are ahead of us, I think we as a people are going to move forward because we are some resilient people. They're trying to do everything they can to us, and we're still here, baby.
Yeah.
We're still here.
You know, the one thing I know we got to stop doing, and we've heard this before, we've been hearing this since, God, Martin Luther King, the whole bit, Malcolm X, we got to stop killing each other. And I think a lot of times we kill each other because we're chasing after the same corn. We're chasing after the same nugget. We got to do more about helping each other, like, pull over, carry over, like come to it. You know what I mean? Instead of people, instead of lagging behind. I think that's the issue in its own right itself.
Your volume is somewhat down. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
I can hear you fine. Maybe I can turn my volume up. Let's see what I can do here, because I hear you. Fine.
Okay, we can continue. I can get through it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, so about pulling each other over instead of being so angry, like, you know, again, like, you don't need to help me. Like, we said this before on my talk show. A lot of brothers don't know how to ask for help.
Well, a lot of brothers don't know how to actually help because that's not what they've been taught to do. See, as a father, I told my son, if something hurts, cry.
Right.
If it hurts,
Yeah.
it hurts.
Yeah.
But I know when I was coming up, somebody said, if it hurts, suck it up. Suck it up. You know, but as I got older, sucking it up wasn't happening when it hurts. You need to go and cry, get it out, and then move forward. You can't move forward if you hadn't gotten over the pain. And I'll say this, I learned this from my pastor a long time ago. Hurt people hurt people.
It's true. Hurt people, and hurt people. They don't. We've heard this before. It doesn't matter how many times you've really fucking said. Is that if you cannot forgive, you're gonna cause so much more pain within yourself than you can ever accomplish doing anything else. So you can never be a good father. You can never be a good partner or a lover or a friend or a brother if you are in pain. And if you don't, and that's what it comes down to. You know, as you know, teaching the emotional intelligence I do, if you don't recognize, understand that body pain and what it's causing inside your body, it's causing so much affliction and sickness that it doesn't just run you over, it's running over your whole family. And we know that just by being like, I've had family members that were drug addicts and they were just like a cancer. They would take and take and take and take. So if you have that sickness inside you, it's going to keep taking from you.
Oh yeah, most definitely. It is going to definitely do that. It is definitely going to do that. We have to, did I freeze? Oh, okay.
No, you're good. No.
Oh, okay. I think somebody was trying to call in on me and I'm trying to get rid of it. I'm sorry. There you go. Yeah. So we have to teach our young boys it's okay to cry.
Right.
If it hurts, it's okay. Now, there's going to come some time you're going to have to get over that pain. So at that moment, it's okay to suck it up. But you must realize you got to come back and deal with that hurt. You got to come back and deal with the pain. And once you have dealt with that, life is going to be all right because you're going to be able to move forward. A lot of us can't move forward. So we're stuck in our hurt. We're stuck in our pain.
Because, I've also was doing some reading. Well, it's like I always do some reading, but I was doing some reading on suicides that don't get often recorded. And I've noticed that, and I got to still do some more digging, but a lot of black men who commit suicide never gets reported as suicide. They get reported as a murder. And I was like, I wonder why that is. Because if it has something to do with a gunshot, they call it a murder. Because unless you dig into the files going, there was one single shot, there was no other shooters, and you're like, well, why didn't they call that a suicide? So it has to be like a blatant suicide for. So there's black men out there who are committing suicide, and it's not being reported as suicide. So the rate is higher than what we think it isn't.
Well, two things are happening. There are things that happens to us, and yes, they call it suicide when you find us hanging from a tree, and they said that he jumped. It's suicide. His hands are bound behind his back, but somehow you jumped from the tree and you found in a cell. You committed suicide. They claim those to be a suicide when we know that's clearly murder. Once again, it goes back to the mere fact of when you stand your ground, you're being called aggressive, or he was aggressive. Look at him. He's, like the gentleman that got killed on the freeway, helicopter above. They know that his car stopped on him. He gets out of his car trying to retrieve help. 4 police officers arrive on the scene. But because the guy in the helicopter said, yeah, look, he looks mean. You're in the helicopter, brother. You saying that you're in the helicopter saying, look, he looks mean. Look how he's walking.
Yeah.
He's going back to his truck. They tell him to stop. Everybody else got what you call those?
The tasers.
Say again?
The taser guns.
Yeah, everybody got tasers out, and this one police officer has a gun out. Why you have a gun out? And he's like 20 feet from you, and everybody got tasers. You still don't have a gun. So then you shoot him and say, well, you know what? I thought he was reaching in his van for something. Come to find out he had nothing in there. But that's the perception that America gives us. Now, the idea is how do you change the perception?
Well, the sick thing is, Tony, I tell you what, is that this conversation that we're having here is the same conversation that has been had by other people in the 60s, 50s, 70s, 80s, 90s. So why are we still having the same conversation about black men getting shot by suspicion, and it has not changed? That's kind of sickening in its own right.
Because we're not valued.
Yeah.
Your life is
right.
not
Yeah.
the same life as it is for someone else that is not your color. Your life is not as valued. It may be valued to your family, but to someone else, it's not nothing. And this is what you get because this is what is being portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
If you portray my life less than, when somebody see me, then my life is less than.
Right.
And until we change the perception, and the perception has to be changed by us because nobody else is going to do it. However, what happens is when we begin to change the perception, somebody comes along and throws a little extra money at the other end. Hey, if you do this, we'll give you this. So we end up having people amongst us that is willing to take the money to help change the perception.
Right.
Let's take, for instance, Bill Cosby. And I'm using Bill for a particular reason.
Okay.
We know that if Bill Cosby did his own stunts during the early days when he was playing I Detective, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
He was the first one that said we should have black stuntmen. The first one, and this is why you have a black stuntmen's union. Because of Bill. Now, let's look at what Bill did again.
Right.
So Bill goes in, he does this experiment with black kids and their perceptions of themselves. Bill was educating us a long time ago. Now, granted, Bill may have educated us, he had some other things on the side, but you can't take away what the man brought to the table.
Right.
In the process, this is what you call the lynching of Bill Cosby, because everything that he's done so far, they're trying to say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that Bill gave Temple University over $20 million. They take your name off the building, Bill. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, they took that name off the building quick.
The honorary degree that you gave Bill, that we gave you, Bill, it doesn't matter. All your money that you contribute to helping kids go to school and become educated, that doesn't matter. Because of something that you did back in 1963, 64, 60, before a lot of us was even born. But it doesn't matter. Come on now.
What Bill did with those women or whoever should not diminish what he was trying to do or what he did do. And I think I think we got to is that we separate that from people. We separate that type of um, education from people that say, "Well, Bill was this, but I remember him as this."
Well, I want to speak specifically for me. I can't throw Bill Cosby away. See, because of his body of work for our anything else. Now, granted, I'm not saying that he didn't do anything that they say he did because I wasn't there, so I don't know.
Right.
But that doesn't give me a right to throw Bill away. Right. I don't see no other race throwing their people away.
That's true. That's true.
Did they throw Elvis Presley away when he married that 14-year-old girl?
Oh, and
his wife was 14 when she was married to him.
And he used to.
I don't see them throwing him away.
And he used to beat her. He used to beat her.
But do they throw Elvis away?
No.
Okay then, so why should I throw Bill away?
Right.
Why should I throw Tupac away, Biggie?
Right.
I'm not throwing none of them away. Now I ain't saying I agree with all of their lifestyle. I'm not saying I agree with it.
Yeah, that's not the same. That's not the same.
But I'm not throwing them away.
You know, I know we got a lot of work to do, and we're going to continue to do the work, you and I, and along with other people, we're going to continue to do this work. So I just want to say it's a blessing that you came on this Friday night talk with me, and it's just about, you know, we call that real table talk, and I think it's got to happen. It's got to be put out there. It can't be, you know, a lot of times, you know, when I have my other production that I got going on Monday nights, you know, some of that stuff has got to be put out there a little bit a different way, but this has got to be a little bit more of a real talk, and so it could just hammer it out there because some people need to be hitting the head with a hammer.
I'm going to say this before we leave. We should start buying up the ghetto instead of moving out.
Yep. I like it.
I mean, everybody else is buying it up.
Yeah.
We're trying to move out.
Yeah,
that should tell you something.
Yeah.
If the black community is that poor, why is everybody coming to us to sell?
Because we didn't that's one of those economic educations. We didn't know how valuable we are until we have to learn how valuable we are. And once we know that, we'll be better for it.
I agree. So I know you've come to the end of your show. And I want to say I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on. And when I get to my next episode, I definitely got to have you on.
Oh, roger that, brother. And God bless you. Take care of your family for you.
Will do. Thank you. And assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.